Board of the Village of Tuckahoe, Wednesday, March 13th, 2024. We'll start with item 1, the approval of the minutes for oh, you want to do, sorry. Excuse me, we'll do the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So item 1 on the agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes from September 13th, 2023. Does anybody have any comments to the minutes? If there are no comments, then I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion.
Second. Present.
Yeah, in favor. In favor. Okay.
In favor.
Okay.
Item 2 on the agenda, 377 Marbledale Road, has been adjourned. Item 3, 377 Marbledale Road for area variance has been adjourned. Item 4, 20 Marbledale Road for amendment of a special permit to expand the business has been adjourned. So we'll have item 5, 25 Main Street. Please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board, staff. For the record, Maximilian Mahalik with the law firm of Cuddy and Fader, address being 445 Hamilton Avenue in White Plains. The property, as noted on the agenda discussion here tonight, is 25 Main Street. Now, this is a request for a variance for a reduction in the number of required parking spaces from 21 to 13. I'll just give a brief context for the public's benefit. This is a lot with over 150 parking spaces, and in 2022, the Planning Board determined that the uses on site would require 21 parking spaces. This board did grant a variance in 2021 to reduce the requirement from 21 to 15 parking spaces. We are requesting this evening 13 parking spaces. This is reflective of the fact that there are 4 uses that have been on the site for quite a while that have differing hours of demand. So you have the Growlers Restaurant, which is opening at 4 o'clock on weekdays through midnight, and it's open on the weekends. You have the dance studio that's busy Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3:30 to 7:30, and then Saturdays, 9 to 12. You have the beauty parlor that has varying hours throughout the week and is busy on the weekends. And then you have a financial office that is open traditional business hours. One of the benefits of this is that there is not one time where all the uses folks are going to turn out at once, creating a type of peak demand hour. It is scattered throughout the times of day and throughout days of week. And another benefit of this, particularly when it comes to the businesses active during the weekends and the Growlers Restaurant, is that the permit spots become free at 5 o'clock on weekdays, and they're free on the weekends, which opens up that whole lot for users. Another potential benefit for this is by returning these 8 parking spaces to the village, which is the owner of the underlying lot. The village, and I'll defer to the village on what it would like to do with them, but it could potentially charge the rate for commuters. Those are the resident and non-resident commuters. That's a $1,700 a space fee as compared to the current fee being charged, which is $1,100 a space for merchants. So with that, nothing is actually changing in terms of trends. There's no changes to the uses or the demand for those uses. So looking at this and applying the balancing test that is applicable for area variances, as there are no changes to the character or the environment, we would request that this variance be approved, as there are no changes to what has been occurring for several years in terms of the lack of the use of all 21 spaces. We submit that this change is not substantial. To the extent that it is considered self-created, that is not a determinative factor in denying a variance, but we would note that this is based on the lack of parking need for the different uses. And then also, I would just cite again to the zoning code provision 5-1.2.4, which says that this variance takes a look specifically at the different uses on site and where those overlapping demands are. If this reduction can be accommodated, we do submit that it can be. We have submitted into the record photos taken throughout different times of the weekdays showing a number of the parking spaces reserved for 25 Depot being open, so we would like to return those to the village. If the board wishes, I do have timestamp versions of those photos, so I can either submit those electronically or hand the hard copies over tonight, or do both. But with that, happy to answer any questions.
How did you arrive at the 13 spaces from 21 spaces?
So the beauty parlor has continually used 5, and then the dance studio has continuously used 4. The new management that came in for Growler, they haven't needed requested a reserved number of spaces, and as noted, their demand, the business opens at 4, and their demand really picks up into the evenings on the weekends when the whole lot is open. And then with the financial office, they have also had just a minimal need for parking based on the how they conduct their business. And being a financial consultant, I wish I could work from home, but they're in and out with clients. And just based on that demand and seeing those empty parking spaces every weekday, the applicant felt that their 13 was feasible. And the tenants haven't had any issues. No issues been communicated to the applicant in terms of parking demand. And the numbers appears to be supported based on what we've submitted into the record.
You said you, oh, I'm sorry. There we go. I have a question. Okay, so you said initially, and I don't know if I heard this correctly, so correct me if I'm wrong. Initially, you were reducing from 21 and you want to reduce to 13, but you said something about 15. Was it reduced to 15 and now you're going from 15 to 13?
So this board previously granted a reduction from 21 spaces to 15, and that ran for a 2-year period because we wanted to see, well, where the whole world would be 2 years later through COVID, and what the demands would be like. We've come out of that, and particularly with Growlers, and to put it very bluntly, a former manager of Growlers wanted their personal space reserved, and so that was one of the 15. Then they wanted a space reserved for one of their employees. That management has changed, and so that request is no longer in demand. So those extra 2 spaces going from 13 to 15 aren't needed anymore. But at the same time, we do know that the number of commuters are growing, and so we wanted to offer up the village the opportunity to take these 8 spaces back to be able to charge the commuter, non-commuter,
Okay.
excuse me, resident, non-resident commuter fee.
Where their operating hours might change.
As I understand, no changes are proposed at this time. And then what we would do is, and Peter, if you have any other additional information, feel free, but I understand that nothing's changing at this time. And then what we would do is, just to make sure we stick to our representations, we would offer to submit a letter to this board stating who the tenants or what the uses are, or to the village, what the uses are, what the tenants are, and what their hours are every year, just to show that, or every few years, whatever this board wishes, just to show that that use continues to remain the same.
So just to be clear, what you're offering is as part of our resolution, you would agree to, or you're offering to provide a letter where you would affirm the use remaining the same in the building each year.
Correct. And I'll defer to the board if it's every year or every 2 years, whatever they feel comfortable with. I do know that the tenants have been there for several years now, and they haven't had any significant changes.
And do the tenants, do they request specific spots from your client, or is it just first come, first serve?
So, and Peter, I'll let you opine, just if I misstate this, but I understand that the dance studio had requested 4 and the beauty parlor had requested 5. Yep. Here, let's put it in the microphone.
Nah.
The beauty parlor had 5, always, and dance studio had 4, always. The financial people upstairs had 3, and then Growler has 1, which is the 13th one.
And you haven't had any issue with any
No,
complaints?
not at all.
No. And I think, again, that's particularly because Growler opens up later in the evening.
Right.
Yeah, so if Growlers plans to offer lunch, the rationale kind of goes out the window.
And so as a part of that letter, then we could state the hours of business. And so if there's a significant change, then that would open up the opportunity
Yeah.
to be back here.
If there was
Okay.
if there was a change of business somewhere and then where you needed now more spaces again.
So the same with that
May-
letter, if
there-
there's a change. And then also just keep in mind too, if there's a change of business, for example, a change of tenant, the village would, I understand, be alerted through whatever permits that
Right.
tenant's coming in for. So you kind of two paths now
Yeah.
to make sure we're sticking to our promises. Yeah.
So, sorry, can I go?
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to ask you a question. You said something about the merchants, well, you pay, what, $1,100 a space for what?
It's $1,100 a space
For
a
how,
year.
per year?
Yep.
Okay, so that means that you will reduce your liability for those things by $8,800, is that correct?
So I understand that the agreement that's been arranged with the village administration is that the rent has continuously been paid. As I'm looking to Peter to make sure he nods to this, it's been paid for 13 spaces continuously, while discussions about the remaining 8 spaces have been ongoing, and the village administration directed us to reach out to the building department and file a ZBA application to discuss the 8 spaces. So the 8 spaces, I know there's been a question about if, the financial obligation for those, and there's been some discussions with the planning board about this, but by returning these to the village, it creates the opportunity for the village to charge up to $1,700 for each space.
But what about, okay, so you haven't paid for the 21, you've only been paying for 13?
The village administrator, I understand the agreement that has been so far to this point has been for the 13 spaces. So,
Okay, so those other spaces basically have been,
but at the same time, there hasn't been a commuter fee charged for them, and so this is going to
so there's
create
been,
the
all
opportunity.
right, so there's lost income for the town, but,
Well, right now, as I understand, there's been some ambiguity about payment on those additional 8 spots. So by formally reducing the parking requirement, it'll formalize that the village can charge whatever they want for these spaces, these 8 other spaces, including upwards of $1,700 based on the village's current fee schedule.
So, I'm sorry, just to confirm, are there back payments that are not satisfied on these 8 spaces?
So I understand that the applicant was before the planning board, and there's been a couple different attorneys involved and a couple different meetings and different boards, and so basically there was and I think the minutes in the planning board even refer to it as like a fresh start in terms of question of back payments or non-back payments. And part of this is because the applicant originally had a 250-year lease, and there was different companies involved, and now the applicant is the owner, and they're here, and they want to cross their T's and dot their I's. And so as a part of this, it was a little unclear whose obligation it was for these additional 8 spaces, and we want to give the village the opportunity to pay the additional revenues, or charge additional revenues.
Okay.
that's
so
going forward, that's not talking about back end.
just for what we're looking at now, it is the matter of the proposed or requested reduction in spaces. We are not covering anything related to back payments, as I understand.
Correct.
Okay,
I just wanted to note that there's the possibility for the village to charge more for those 8 spaces.
understood.
Yep.
And sorry if I was dragging it out. I just wanted to.
Oh, no,
clear for-
totally understood.
No, that's going forward.
Yes, going forward,
Going
yeah.
forward, we're
But we wanna
talking about the
formalize.
back end, what happened between then and now. And those spaces were not covered.
Right, but what's before us is just whether
Right.
or not we're going to reduce the
Right.
the number of spaces that is required. And are there any other questions on this applicant? Okay, so as we said in the planning session, we have to have this open this up for a public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Second?
So
Okay.
take. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, do I?
Favor?
In favor.
Yes.
In favor. So we'll see you next month, and we'll consider. We were gonna.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there anybody here from the public that would like to speak? Okay, seeing no one.
Right.
Right. Make a motion to carry over the public hearing to the next meeting.
I second that.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we'll see you next next month, and just for your knowledge, we're going to reach out to the planning board and just get some of their thoughts as the amount of spaces, how we're, landing on the number that you requested of 13. So we'll see you next month, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
And chairperson, members of the board, staff, if you guys need anything from us,
Oh, if you could send the time stamped by email would be fine.
so I'll send the timestamp. And if you guys need anything else from us, let us know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Ah.
Well, Take care. Good night.
Good night.
So, item 6 on the agenda, 126 Bella Vista Street, area variance to enlarge a driveway. Please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michele Vinci. I'm at 126 Bella Vista, like you stated. Looking to reconstruct a stone retaining wall in the driveway, and then using that as an opportunity as well to increase the driveway from 9 to 12 feet. That's essentially, the plan, and that's why I'm here this evening.
And can you explain for us some of the challenges the existing driveway pose that are driving the
Of course.
expansion?
Yeah, so currently, because the original driveway is only 9 feet, I'm unable to park my vehicle, my car in the driveway. So obviously poses a challenge, for myself and my family, in order to use that space, because right now it's just not accessible for our, for the family to use to park the car. So since we have the retaining wall that does need to be repaired because it's the original wall, we can use this as an opportunity to create a workable space and be able to park our vehicle. And keeping in mind that for the stone wall that's currently there, we're going to keep the same architectural design, try to reuse, as much as we can of those stones, keep everything the same, just enlarge by about 18 inches on each side so that, again, we would have a usable driveway, because currently the driveway is not usable and we're not able to park our vehicle there.
And about your neighbors okay with this? Everybody
Yeah,
all
and the
right?
neighbors have all
Yeah,
shown, support, they seem, willing to come and
Yeah,
offer their
okay.
support as well, but,
Um,
but up to this point, everything
I
seems
have a
fine.
question, Peter. Peter, right?
Mike,
Mike?
or Michele,
Sorry,
but
Mike.
call me Mike.
I was just looking at the picture because I went by your house today, and your wife told me that it was only going to be about 6 inches here and 6 inches there. It's not that much, but you're saying 18. So I was just looking at your picture, and when you do the side, as you look at your house on the right, if you move that wall, it's going to be beyond the fence that you have there, right? So what are you going to do with that area there? You're going to have to support that, and also the stone wall in front of your house there, you see? I mean, here, this is what I'm saying. He's going to move this over, right? So now he's got this area that he's got to deal with. That's the house, and then he's going in here. This is going in 18 inches. That's quite a lot in front of the fence.
Who are you hiring a professional to do this work?
Yeah, Moreno Landscaping, he's actually done work for the village, previously, so I know he's done work in the village. Came recommended, and we've used him we feel confident that, the contractor will do what's right. I mean, like I said previously, if the board feels like they want me to go 6 inches to the other side, then that's okay,
Well,
but
there's a retaining wall on each
as of right
side,
now,
and just as you said, you're rebuilding the retaining wall because it is failing
It's
or needs to be
correct, yeah.
repaired.
the stones are crumbling, so, sorry.
What
Yeah.
you'll do with that wall on the right-hand side that exceeds the edge of the houses will be a small return to the house. So the retaining wall is still.
Me there. Okay.
We'll check all the plans to make sure that retaining wall can withhold the dirt behind it.
They're gonna make sure it's all yes, we just have to approve whether or not he can push the retaining wall. The buildings department will make sure that it's done to code and that it's done safely.
And to the,
Right.
because the
Yes.
it looks like the foundation on the other side of the house is gonna be exposed there when you move that over 18 inches. So, I mean, I don't know what's over there. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
that's something you're gonna run into.
I'm sure the contractor, will take the necessary steps to ensure that it's within code and like you said, Bill will definitely, be there when the footings are placed and make sure that everything's done to regulation.
And this is
Oh,
something that has been done, from what I could see on your block, to actually make the driveways usable.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah.
Other
for
people have
sure.
done it.
The neighborhood, a lot of my neighbors have working driveways, so I'd like to be one of those neighbors.
I don't think this is an unreasonable
Yeah.
question. I'm
Yeah,
just
no.
looking
I
at
hope not.
what,
Hey,
Does anybody else have any other questions?
no, I got nothing. No answer.
So as we said at the planning session, we have to open this up for the public comment, and you'll be back at the next meeting, or it'll be scheduled for the next meeting. So I make a motion to open the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Seeing no members of the public, I make a motion to keep the public hearing open till next meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Madam Chair,
Okay.
I think Mike's gonna be at a Yankee game next.
Oh, nice,
month.
nice.
Good for you. I'm jealous.
Okay.
Sorry, it
So
was my
if-
son's birthday.
If there's no changes,
Yeah.
you're free to vote without him here, but if there are changes, he'll need to come back and
Right.
explain the changes. But if everything stays the same,
Yeah,
then
Okay.
stay the
we
same.
can vote on it next month.
I appreciate it. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thanks for
Okay.
everyone's time.
So
You
that
got
concludes business. Make a motion to. I
Make a
guess,
motion to
close,
adjourn.
adjourn. the he-
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Night, Tuckahoe.
Good night.
good night. That's all she wrote. Nice job.